And there was a rule that they taught us always when it came to dealing with people, institutions, or anything, and they called it the prudent man rules. Today, I'm going to elevate that conversation. Today, we're going to elevate this conversation out of the prudent man rule, which is suggested as a way of doing things, a way of making decisions that you should think about if you want to be considered a respectful person, a kind person, a generous person, the kind of person that one can trust, people who make prudent decisions. Then you have to follow the prudent man rule. What would a prudent man do in that situation, right? That's the question we were taught to ask. But I want to elevate that question to this. I want you to think about it this way. It's actually the prudent man that rules. Now, what do you mean? What do I mean by that when I say that? When you know that you're doing the right things, you're saying the right things, you're creating the right things, you're generating the right things in the right way at the right time with the right people, and you're absolutely convinced that it's all going to work out the way you've thought about it, the way you've designed it, the way you've conceived it, then you have every reason in the world to be giddy, gleeful, joyful at whatever process or program that you find yourself being a part of. And if you look at the training guide that I put in the chat, the first picture of that wonderful gentleman who's, delivered this amazing or about to deliver an amazing presentation. What is he saying? It's like, I got this. He has it and he knows it. He's exciting. He's excited and he's happy because he knows everything he's doing, everything he's saying, whatever is going to come up next is going to be spot on. He's got the right skills. He's got the right talent. He's got the right information. Everything he's about to do now is going to work. And he is tremendously joyful and almost giddy with the opportunity and expectations. This is one of the core benefits of prudence. When you know you got it all worked out, when you know you've done your homework, you've done the research, you've checked in with everybody who was important to check in with, you've got all the communications aligned, you've got everything moving in the right direction. So what is this prudence thing all about? What it really is it's good management of any and every decision-making process and the attendant behaviors that come from those decisions. So it's not just making good decisions, it's behaving and knowing that you will behave correctly as a result of those decisions. This is when you know you've been prudent, right? And it's super important that you understand that it feels good for some very key reasons. When your brain is working in an area that we like to call flow state, right? When you are your prefrontal cortex, which is the top portion of your brain, right here in front, right above your eyes. When you're actually doing that kind of thinking and you're using it to generate high quality decisions, you need a couple of things working to your advantage. And the thing that's working to your advantage from a neurotransmitter point of view is your mind and your body, your neurons are basically injecting into your system dopamine and serotonin. Now, those two hormones or chemicals, depending on how you receive them, are key to you having you focus and having you focus exceptionally well and to be calm at the same time. So you're calm and you're focused, right? And when that happens, you can have the best thoughts. You can have the best, you have the best of it. You feel amazing because you're not nervous, you're not anxious, you're not upset, you're not feeling fear or anxiety or any of those types of things. And your brain is literally building what we call neuroplasticity, right? Your brain is actually building the building blocks it needs to recall and attain and maintain a high level of information. So you're able to recall the things that you want me to recall. You're able to um, remember what to say and how to say it, and the pace and the phrasing, all that kind of stuff is worked out. You've done all your practice so much so that it's now what we call muscle memory, or it's brain memory, but it's actually your brain functions just like a lot like your muscles. The more you use these muscles, the more you become muscle memory, and the more you behave in that way. You get all this right, and it feels wonderful. In fact, when other people bump into you when you're in this flow state, right, and they are you are actually able to produce enough of those hormones to allow them to start to produce the same hormones. So you're bumping into somebody who's at a high level of serotonin and not adrenaline, but dopamine. It's gonna bump off, it's gonna rub off on you. Like the brain, your brain is like Wi-Fi connected to another person's brain, right? At the same time. So they're gonna mimic your breathing patterns, they're gonna mimic your speech patterns, they're gonna feel as good as you feel because you're so prepared, you're so ready, you're so excited and joyful. Then it we mirror the mirror neurons in our brain and pick up the other people's mirror neurons, and they're gonna start to feel exactly the way you feel. Now, this is powerful stuff that I'm telling you, right? So this is why it's important to not try to fake it, because when you're faking it and you're not putting the work into making good decisions about how you're going to do whatever you're going to do, you're not putting that work in. You know that you're cheating. You know that you're not putting the work in, and that's going to make you feel anxious and nervous, maybe a bit fearful, maybe a little bit frustrated and angry that you didn't put the work in, but here you are now. You're on stage and you have to perform, right? That doesn't feel good. Everybody wants to be at their best, especially when it counts a lot. By the way, it always counts to be at your best, to try to produce excellence. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. But what's important about this part of prudence and being able to make those decision makings. So now think about it. What did I just say to you? Is it possible for you to make prudent decisions if you're not calm and you're not focused? No, it's impossible. So these are the basic building blocks of prudent decision making, right? In order for you to plan, in order for you to handle your impulses, in order for you to make wise decisions, show some self-control and some discernment and foresight for yourself, you're going to have to acknowledge that what you need to be is prudent. You need to learn it, you need to understand it, you need to, practice prudence in everything. Now, what happens? What are the benefits of people who practice prudence in all of the things they do, right? They're able to sustain and maintain whatever they accumulate. So you have that financial stability because what are you doing? You're being careful about where you invest your assets of any type. You're being careful and you're mitigating your risk because you're making informed decisions that reduce risk and potential loss, right? From a personal point of view, you're having more of a peace of mind because you're intending to be and act prudently on the things that are important for you to act on, including your health. So you're making better decisions. You're making and it's affecting your financial and your mental health, right? You're being more prepared for anything that even the unexpected events that might happen in your life, or you're ready for the impact of any emergency that may come along because you're already prepared. You've already thought down the road and considered what obstacles might come into your way. You've thought about the political obstacles, the economic obstacles, the legal obstacles, the technological obstacles, the obstacles that may come from your ecosystem that you are involved in, and you've thought about them all, as well as the social things, that might come up, right? You've thought about them all on a high level, and you actually have a plan for the just in case this happens or that happens or this possibly could happen, you know. And you don't want to plan for every possible contingencies, but the most likely possible contingencies, you want to have a really, really good plan for that. And that's going to help you have a peace of mind and a feeling of preparedness. Professionally, when you are prudent, your reputation becomes the most important thing to you, because you know with your reputation, right, when people know that they can believe and trust in you, that you're a reliable person that makes sound judgment calls and sound decisions, it enhances your professional relationships and every opportunity that comes out of it. Your strategic planning is going to be at a high level. Why? Because you're able to make better, more considerate decisions from not just a personal but an organizational level when you know how to act and think with prudence. You don't have to worry about your ethics, when you're a prudent person. Why? Because you're already embracing integrity and what we would call responsible stewardship of all the things that you have, all the assets that you have, all the time, talent, and treasure that you're able to um, accumulate and assume. You're ready to go, right? This is why the prudent man rules. This is why the prudent man is able to get things done that people who are not prudent can't do. So what's the difference between a prudent person and a person who's not prudent? Well, I'll tell you what, you can just look at the dictionary and figure that one out. If you're not prudent, if you're not acting with prudence, you're probably acting with foolishness, right? You're probably acting in a way that's not good for you and not good for other people long term. And that means whatever long term gains that you're able to get, or even short term gains you're able to get, you're going to take a couple steps back in the long term and probably have to start all over again, or maybe start from negative. But you don't want to do that, right? When everything you're trying to do, I want to act prudently. So you get to keep the gains that you make in every area of your life, whether it's time, talent, or treasure. Prudent people manage their time exceptionally well. They're able to prioritize. They're able to schedule things they need to schedule. They delegate brilliantly, right? People who are prudent are genius level when it comes to talent development, right, for themselves and others, because they're continuously learning. They believe in mentorship and giving and providing positive feedback for others. From a wealth accumulation standpoint, you know, they'll be the most likely people to diversify their investment portfolios and not put all their eggs in one basket, right? They're most likely people to have a stable financial stability through an emergency fund that they will have put together. They're great with their debt management. These are all things that prudence requires, but also delivers back to the people who embrace prudence. I call prudence the Zen of quietude. Now, think about that. There's basically several different personality types, but they pretty much fall into one or two camps. So you're an introvert, you're some type of introvert, or you're some type of extrovert, right? There's also a new thing called ambivert that, people are trying to throw around as a reality. And I think that, most of us are ambiverts in certain situations. Um, but there's some situations where we're totally introverted and some situations we're just totally extroverted. We're not getting into that conversation today, but understand it's those quiet people who are usually the ones that are not just introverted, but introspective. It's those quiet people who are checking everybody else out and thinking about how they might play a scenario, or what they might do differently as a result of what they see in front of them, right? And they're always um, they're more voyeuristic than the rest of us, right? So when you're looking at a quiet person, you might think, "Oh man, they're quiet. I don't really know what's going on in their head." But there's probably a lot going on in their head that if you inquired about that to them, you probably could figure out some things that you might not figure out, not just about them, but about life and about what's going on in real time in the business that you're in. Because they're probably going to be very thoughtful about what they're considering and what they would do. I love asking quiet people, what would you do in a situation? So the questions that you have to ask yourself when you're thinking about prudence there's about 8 questions that I posed when we put this together, and I'm going to read through them quickly with you. Um, but I'm also going to answer 1 or 2 that I think are very, very important, right? So question number 1 is, do you have a well-developed go-to criteria to ensure that you're always making prudent decisions? You need to have standard operating procedures for everything. Let me say again, you need to have standard operating procedures for everything. You need a well-developed criteria that will help you judge and make decisions so that you're not stuck in analysis paralysis in places where you need not to be stuck. You need to be moving forward. You need to be going quickly. You need to be. That means you need to have a strategy in place already. When you bump into a situation where you don't have a strategies in place already, it should make you nervous. It should make you go, oh my God, I didn't think about that. And then you do that work to think about that. Put the time aside to do whatever you got to do. Don't let that come up again and you not have an answer to whatever the problem, the challenge that might be. It's super important. So I used to do this in my business is whenever I face an obstacle, whether it's on the phone with somebody or I'm in a consulting call or I'm in a situation where I don't quite know what's going on. I haven't figured out I got all the answers or a response, an appropriate response to whatever I'm hearing. I write it down. This happened, that happened, that happened, that, and then um, I would go back at the end of the day when I'm doing my sort of download from what I did from today. I would go, okay, there's some negative experiences I had, some negative thoughts and negative things that I don't want to have these again. What do I need to do to make sure I get better at this? And I would just write down a strategy that I might want to try. And the next day I try it. So when I'm doing my daily journaling or I'm doing my daily reflection, some people call it a reflection, some people call it journaling, some people call whatever you do when you at the end of your day or the end of your week or the end of your month, when you look back on all your activities, look back on the things that worked well, things that didn't work well. What are you doing about the things that didn't work well? You got to actively have a plan to adjust to it, to address them and adjust those things. If not, then you just will be out of control again when that thing happens. And it will cause you to have nervousness and it'll cause you to make bad decisions. And you want to make good decisions. That's what prudent people do. They make good decisions, right? Number 2, what are you doing to increase your efficacy in the areas of self-control, mindfulness, and gratitude? What are you doing to increase your efficacy in the areas of self-control, mindfulness, and gratitude? If you get this down, right? The questions, the answers in the questions. And it's not about what you're doing as much as the fact, are you doing anything to increase your level of self-control, your level of mindfulness, your level of gratitude? And it really doesn't matter what you do, just do something. And as you begin to that process of doing, you'll refine that process and get better and get better and get better. If you're asking every day, how can I be better at this thing? Self-control, mindfulness, gratitude. All right. What are you doing actively to grow your insight and wisdom so that you can trust your own instincts? Because if you can trust your own instincts, then you have a right to ask other people to trust you as well. Number 4, what do you need to do to become better at scheduling, prioritizing, and delegating? That's an easy one. If you're not thinking about those things on a regular, consistent basis, think about them. Scheduling, prioritizing, and delegating. What are you doing? Number 5, have you mastered continuous learning, performance feedback, and mentorship? Are you continuing to grow in your area of expertise? Are you getting feedback from those who are witnessing and participating or maybe even experiencing your performance? Are you mentoring others? Are you getting the mentorship that you need in the areas that you need that mentorship in, right? There's no such thing as by the way, I'm going to correct sort of a myth I hear out there all the time. People think I need a mentor and my mentor is going to solve everything. No, your mentor is not going to solve everything. Your mentor can only mentor you around areas that they've experienced in. So if you find that people are trying to mentor you or consult you or advise you in areas that they have no experience in, then the quality of their mentorship might be in question. And you don't want to have, people giving you not thoughtful or well-considered advice, because that doesn't help you grow, right? And if you're trying to grow, you want to make sure you're getting the best from the best. And so I would suggest you have 5 or 6 mentors in different areas where you want to experience growth. Number 6, investment, diversity, debt management, and contingency funds are all sources of strength for fiscal prudence, right? How do you improve in those areas? Are you good with your debt management? Are you good with the contingency funds that you have set aside? Are you good with the diversity in your investment portfolio? Do you need to visit those things and pay attention to those things? You cannot make prudent decisions on things that you're ignoring, right? Number 7, how are you conferring with your more introverted associates on matters of importance? Why do I say that? Like I said earlier, right? Those introverts, man, we sit around, we think about things at a level that you might not know or even understand if you're an extrovert. But I promise you, you got 5 or 6 good introverts in your corner, you can definitely, rule the world. You just have to make sure that you checking in and taking the temperature with your introverts. Number 8, exercising prudence is more than data analysis. It's how you go about establishing the hidden potential that the data might reveal from all kinds of perspectives and experiences. How do you develop a sure footing for the chosen path ahead? This requires prudence. Okay, so I'm gonna chop it up with my pal Leah, and we're gonna talk about it. Leah, is there any thoughts or any ideas that you would like to share from anything we talked about?
Yeah, a lot to unpack there. What really resonated with me when you're talking about prudence is you're talking about the ability to trust yourself. And so oftentimes people don't trust themselves. They don't trust their intuition. In my humble opinion, we're talking about leadership. And the
Yes,
first person we have to be able to lead is ourselves. And when
exactly.
we have broken the promises that we kept to ourselves, we promised to ourselves we're going to do this certain thing, get up and exercise, and then we constantly and continuously break those promises, then we're out of congruency.
Hmm.
And so we're not able to make those judgments, because prudence is the ability to make judgments. And I know a lot of people get all kind of twisted up about the word judgment because they think that it means putting someone down. But in
Right.
my mind, it means the ability to be discernible, the ability
Yes.
to make critical thinking decisions.
Yes. Yes.
And it
Yes.
comes down to all the neuroscience, right? Making those synapses, those connections. And a lot of that people get from that dopamine, from right those scrolling through social media, but they overlook that's really something's controlling you. So in
Yes.
order to, in my mind, to get that authentic dopamine and serotonin, it's about exercise. And people call it exercise. I call it moving my body, like just getting out in nature, taking a walk. I mean, we talk about going to the gym, but a lot of people think of that as being punitive. But,
Mhm.
getting in the water, playing with your children. And so when we don't fortify ourselves in those areas, then we don't trust our own intuition and we doubt ourselves. And what happens is then our prudence goes down because we can't make decisions. We're
Yes.
looking at every shiny object, chasing every squirrel, because we don't know what our core values are. We don't know what
Right.
we believe. And I talk
Right.
about the 5 F's: faith, family, finance, fitness, and fun. And when we improve our financial health, every area of our 5 F's should improve. Otherwise, we've done something wrong, right?
Yes.
Otherwise,
Yes.
you've making a withdrawal and you haven't made any deposits, and that's called burglary. And we're not here to be burglars.
Especially from ourselves. You're stealing from yourself when you're
Yeah.
not taking the time to act proactively. right? You need time to, you can't be proactive in the moment that you're supposed to be. You have to be proactive before the moment arrives, right? So you have to be able to forecast potential possibilities and opportunities, and then you have to have a program response already ready. Like I said earlier, it feels so good when you already know before you go in how things are going to go.
Yeah. That's
And
so good.
it's a magical feeling, and as you gain more experience, you're going to get better at it. As you start to make decisions for yourself, improve your integrity by honoring the decisions that you made for yourself, whether it's in all those 5 areas that you talked about. That's fantastic. I'm gonna steal that, by the way.
Please
I'll
do.
let you
Yeah.
know. I'm stealing it. I'm stealing it. But it's important that we do these things, especially as entrepreneurs, because people think that entrepreneurs take risk.
Mm.
And I tell people all the time, well, yeah, to a certain degree, but the risks are supposed to be calculated risks, right? So is a calculated risk a real risk? I mean, if you already know the outcome, is it a risk or is it just a strategy? I think it can be argued either way. But the point about it is, if you know, and that and you can prove it, there's
Yeah.
no stress there. There's no reason to fear there. There's no reason for doubt. There's no reason for shame. There's no reason for anything except, I'm gonna go forward with pride and glow and strategy and just do the thing that I was put here on this planet to do.
Mm.
You know, and I think that's, when you're tapped in, and you said this about, alignment, right? When you're tapped into your purpose, your values, and the path that you've chosen, whatever that path is professionally, you're all the way in, and you're able to articulate the reasons why you're doing things so that everybody else can go, oh, okay, I see that. I
Right.
understand that. They can say, "Oh, right, that was a good decision that you made to go in that direction based on your values, based on the person that you are, based on the things that you understand about the industry going forward. You've done your homework, the research. You're not just dialing it up for yourself. You're actually looking forward and looking at what other people are saying and doing, and going, I can be better. In fact, I am better, and so it's time for me to start just doing the thing, right?" So I think a lot of times when people try to do things without consideration,
Mm.
and that it's impossible to be prudent. It's impossible to be prudent if you're not gonna if you're not even trying to understand it. You're just gonna move. I'm just jumping in. Now that's risk, right? To me, is you're jumping in. You don't have enough information to act on it. You don't have enough information to act on it with confidence, or your confidence is based on a false set of assumptions. That's another thing. Right now, we're all looking at data driven demand, data driven this, data driven that. And data is critically important, but it's so easy to collect the wrong data,
That's right.
right? And it's so easy to allow yourself to focus on the wrong set of data so that your decisions, even though you're going through them confidently, really don't make sense. And if you looked at somebody, if you ask somebody else with more experience or talent in a different direction, they'll tell you, well, that data isn't correct. That's not good information. You're building an instinct or not. It's not even instinct yet. It's really an intuition that you're building, but it's based on false information. Because you know we've understood this now that when you don't collect the right data and you start moving forward on a strategy, what happens?
Garbage in, garbage out.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I really believe too that, and you touched on this, is that you have to, I always say you have to get ready and stay ready. You can't be talking about, let me give you an example. The more you speak your mind, the more you grow your mind.
Yes.
So I have been speaking to myself in my car, in my bathroom, to my grandson before I ever got onto any of these interviews. People think, oh my gosh, you must have prepared. And I do, but I have been giving talks to myself, for years
Yes.
because I've been
Yes.
preparing. I've been
Right.
intentionally attracting these opportunities. And also, I want to unpack something that you said that I think is so profound that we overlook. Everybody talks about a morning routine, and obviously that's important. But in my humble opinion, the secret sauce is downloading your day, is
Yes.
having a system so that
Yes.
you can unwind and release what's happened. Give yourself the high five. Mel Robbins talks about the high five, about what you
Yes.
did well,
Yes.
but then you can rewind and really discover and make those degree of separation, those little upgrades that you need to make, and then prepare for that next opportunity. And when we don't take the time to do that, then what do? We're a record player. A broken record. We just keep
Right.
replaying
Just
that same
skipping,
broken
skipping,
record.
skipping,
Yeah.
skipping. Right. I love it. And you're so right about that. When I found that, as I'm coaching my clients a lot, um, different people have different times of the day where it's good for them to be in reflection and renewal, right? And it really depends on, a lot of people have different biorhythms and so like for me, I do my best thinking at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Now, I'm robbing myself of very, very important sleep. But man, the stuff I come up with at 2, 3, it's so compelling. I'm like,
Call
wait a minute.
me. I'm up too.
You know, I'm like, I'm like, I don't know how to break the cycle. And so, I was working with a sleep coach a couple years back, and they told me, like, don't break the cycle. Just find different parts of the day where you can just let it all go and sit down and relax. But if your natural biorhythms are, I'm a midnight owl person, and that's when my brain wakes up and comes alive and all that kind of stuff. Like, yeah, because everybody else goes to sleep, I'm just getting going. It's like, wow, I'm kicking it into third gear when everybody else is asleep. Like, oh, this is not. I used to be mad about myself about it, but now I rock out to it. I still get up early, because I find that I don't need as much sleep. And I used to worry that, oh my God, I'm not getting enough sleep. It's going to cost me blah, 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 down health issues down the road. And I started to realize, like, well, certain people need different amounts of sleep based on their own experience. So the rules of thumb when it comes to people are exactly that, because my thumb is different than your thumb. you know, and so yeah, it might be rule of thumb, but it's a different thumb, and so you have to be open to that. And that's why I tell people, like, all the time. It's like, yeah, the rules that people will give you to do certain things, and these little mantras we say, some work for you, some don't work for you, but you absolutely have to have something to help you develop every area of your life, spiritually, um, your heart, mind, body, and soul. Have to all grow, and you can't leave any of it behind. And so if you're leaving your spiritual development behind, or you're leaving your your personal development behind, or you're leaving your health behind, or you're leaving your mental and your clarity and your
Mm.
emotional resonance behind, then you're going to be imbalanced, and you're not going to have that alignment when you go forward, and you're going to need to have that. When what hits the fan, and you need to deliver the goods, whatever the goods are. It's your weak parts that are going to bring you down. And
Yeah.
if they're not strong enough, if your strong parts are not strong enough to overcome your weak parts, then eventually you got to go back and fix that. And I know a lot of people say, well, just focus on your strengths and don't worry about your weaknesses. I agree. Your strengths are super, super important to focus on, because people take your strengths for granted, and then you lose that strength, right? When you don't give it what it needs to develop and grow. However, your weaknesses, if you're in an area where they could be very detrimental to you, and you don't have anybody else to delegate that to, or you don't have another team member around you that could pick you up or see it coming down the pike and help you with that, you're in a world of hurt because there's no strength that's going to overcome it. That's no matter where you're at strength. So I always say, try to find what is the word you use. You didn't use alignment. You used congruence. Is that what the word? That the word? Yeah. Okay. It's like, try to find that. And I hate balance because there's no such thing as the
No,
perfect balance. It's
there
just
is.
being in alignment with the moment that you need to be in alignment with, in my point of view. But
Yeah.
that's where we are. So I see David's out there in the audience, and I see a couple
Mr.
of my
Mic
friends out there
Drop.
in the audience.
Yes.
I love that. I love that. I'm gonna post that so everybody can see it. Thank you, David, for your contribution. If any of you are all out there, by the way, and you want to ask a question, you can put it in the chat. If you want to let anybody know about anything that you're doing from an entrepreneurial point of view, how to get in contact with you, where's your contact information, Leah? You still didn't put that in there?
Oh, okay. I need to put that in there.
I,
I was going to say too, it's about finding your own cadence. People talk about burnout and they talk about balance. And in my opinion, there is no such thing as balance, right? If you
right,
want balance,
right,
go to yoga. I mean, if you're an entrepreneur, we are going to be perfectly in balance, but
right.
finding your own cadence. If you are an early
Yes,
person, then be an early person. If
that's the
you're a
thing right
night
there.
owl, then be a night owl. Stop trying to fit into somebody. We're entrepreneurs. We
Right,
color outside of the box. That's what we're
right.
supposed to do anyway. So,
And the beautiful thing about small business is the flexibility. You don't got to punch in, punch out 9 to 5. You don't have to do that. You don't have to meet anybody you don't want to meet. You have to talk to anybody you don't want to talk to. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. You have absolute control and flexibility over how you want to run your life and how you want to do your business. And so take advantage of that, because you can find niches and find opportunities that big businesses can't take advantage of. They're too big.
right.
They're not flexible enough. They're not nimble enough. They can't take advantage of the opportunities that you could take advantage of. And, I'm not saying that, sometimes people go, well, I can't turn it off sometimes. I agree. You do have to turn it off sometimes. And you don't want to set up a scenario where you don't even know how to turn it off. I hear you, and I'm 100% behind that. However, temporarily, sometimes you got to fire on all cylinders, and you got to be moving forward. You got to give the big push every once in a while. You can't do the big push all the time, because that would sap your energy and resources, right? But every once in a while, you have to know when it's time. Okay, time to hunker down, time to focus, time to really get, push the heavy rocks, the big rocks forward now, because I can't do this later. I can't. I've got. I'm about to. Now, if you live like that all day, every day, some people do. By the way,
Yeah.
that's not sustainable,
No.
and you got to figure out how to break those opportunities up, and how to delegate some to other people, how to invite your team in, or to other people to help you play with this, because at this point, you're at capacity, and you can't be at capacity 100% of the time, all the time. It's just there's no life with that. Your mission will drag you down to depression, and we don't want that. We want to avoid that, right? So that's being healthy and being in alignment as much as you possibly can.
That's right.
But anyway, I had a great time talking to you. Obviously, Leah, you and I could talk all day, every day. Um, but I'm going to put you backstage now and close the show out, and don't go anywhere,
Thank you.
because we can chop it up a little bit later after the show. Well, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, that's Coffee Tea, you and me. Every week, we get together with entrepreneurs and best minds and the best thoughts of some of the best people, and we try to share some jewels with you all that are going to be good for you, good for your business. I hope that you take advantage of all the free stuff and the tools and the things that we share. And let us know if something works well. Don't keep it to yourself. Let everybody know. Tell us where you got the idea from, or tell us what you're doing with it. The chat's going to be available to you 24/7, even when we're not on. So even if you're watching the replay, participate in the discussion. Get involved, because you get engaged. The more you do that, the more you open up those chemicals that I talked about earlier in your own brain, right? And you're getting yourself all fired up, and you're able to, again, make a big growth spurt happen for yourself, and a big growth spurt happen for your business when you do that. Next week, we're going to go back into our plan, back into more benefit talk and benefit speak. And I hope you will enjoy us. I think we'll be finishing this up over about the next 2 or 3 weeks. I haven't looked at the schedule, but I think that's what it's going to be. I owe this opportunity to my wonderful fraternity brothers of Phi Beta Sigma fraternity who embrace and endorse everything I do in my business. I am the business development person for the organization, and it's so important that we reach out to small businesses and support them in any way that we possibly can. If you know small businesses that would enjoy programs like this, definitely recommend them. We're broadcast every week on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, and now Instagram. And so, and when I'm lucky, I get a great co-coach like Leah, and she'll broadcast it on her LinkedIn and YouTube spaces and so on and so forth. So, it's always a great thing to broaden the reach as reach as many people as we possibly can. Look forward to seeing you guys on the flip side. This is Coach Powell signing off. Thank you very, very much.